Whoops. It's been a minute, but we're back. Sorry about that, guys. I had no clue. It's usually not muted. It's usually not muted, but we are so back. Um, as I was saying, welcome back to the Lasagna Show, boys and girls. It is so glad to be back. So good to be back. So good to be with you guys and talk some Yankees baseball. I went to some of the Angels games, Dodger games. Some good and some bad. Angels was a fun series. Dodgers series was a not so fun series for me, kind of as expected, which was unfortunate. But hey, this Cleveland Guardians series was much better, obviously. 2 out of 3, good start for Max Fried tonight. Definitely something you want to see after, he started the game pretty high pitch count. It looked like he might have a short outing, and he found his way to scratch and claw his way through there. One of the biggest things people are talking about right now over the course of the last, week and a half or so, since I haven't done a show, is everyone's, talking about the Yankees offense. Yankees offense looks like shit. Yankees offense is bad with the runners in scoring position. And there's definitely some truth to that. We have seen, some struggles with runners in scoring position. We've seen a lack of situational hitting. Tonight we saw more, bases loaded. Ben Rice hits it into a double play ball. They ended up not scoring that inning. Runner on third earlier today, and Jason Dominguez isn't driving the run. So there has been some struggles. There's been some low scoring games. There's been some times where the offense doesn't look, like the juggernaut that they were to start this season, which everyone was expecting to continue. But it was a little unrealistic to expect them to continue to play the way they did earlier in the season throughout the rest of the year. They were leading, I think, in almost every single category: OPS, on base percentage, slugging. I think they were up there in like runs batted in, home runs, this and that. So, eventually trees don't go to the sky. You're not going to maintain those numbers every time. But there was going to be some regression. You're going to see Trent Grisham, which is one of my guys, my guy T-Rant. You're going to see him come back down to earth. He's not going to have a 1,000 OPS all season. Ben Rice was going to come back down to earth at some point, but he's still hitting the ball really well. You just don't expect him to have a 1,000 OPS for the year and hit 37, 40 bombs. That's not going to happen. But even with some of that regression happening, though, the team has been playing well. The Guardians, we always talk about, they have that satanic Guardians devil magic that they cook up, and they have all these soft hits that end up being base knocks, and soft contact leads to runs for them and all that kind of stuff. But the Yankees found a way to take 2 out of 3 against a tough team. Today there was a kind of a random right-hand pitcher. You know what happens with the Yankees when they see some random guy they've never seen before, or have seen in limited kind of starts and situations like that. So usually when we face guys like that, everyone in the comments is like, "Oh, we're about to get shut down." Blah blah blah. If you see the stuff from the beginning, the stuff was not that good. So it was nice to see, them scratch a few runs with Bellinger hitting homer there, and tack on a few extra down the line there to make it 4-0. But overall, pretty strong series. A nice rebound from the Dodger series. What is up, guys, in the chat? I'm just seeing your comments right now. Joan says, curious to see how Warren rebounds tomorrow. Yeah, that'll definitely be interesting. Red Sox I think we got the Red Sox tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. So that's going to be a very weird situation that the Yankees, they're barely facing the Red Sox this late into the season. So it's going to be, it's going to be fun. Friday night baseball against the Red Sox rivalry. It doesn't matter how shitty the Red Sox are playing right now. Anytime it's Yankees Red Sox, especially the first game of the first series of the season, it's going to be must-watch television. So definitely excited for that one. What is up, Jacob? Not doing too bad, other than starting the show with a mute on, which is unfortunate. We're shaking off some cobwebs. All right, it's been a couple weeks. Mike says we won a series against a very good team. Yesterday, the pitching was phenomenal. This was a good series. I agree, it was. Bernard says Fried couldn't do this versus LA. Whew, man. I don't know if we got enough time in the day for me to go into that Dodger series, man. It was a tough test. We knew it was going to be a tough test. It was the World Series matchup. The Dodgers had obviously beat us in the World Series last season. They were chirping a lot all off season. You got the comments from Joe Kelly. You got, some other murmurs from their dugout about you just got to put the ball in play. The Yankees will, they'll find a way to fuck it up themselves. Judge is on clutch, Judge out the ball center field, no fundamentals, Garrett Cole can't cover first base. There was so much negativity. So, you get your first crack at the Dodgers since that World Series. Every angle has been talked about from that World Series, every deficiency from the Yankees in the series has been, gone over 100 times. So you got your first crack at it. Max Fried had a pretty big lead to start. The offense did their thing. Yankees ended up losing that lead, and the Dodgers find a way to win. Then you got Will Warren. Max Fried had been one of the best pitchers in baseball, arguably the best pitcher in baseball. But so it was a good test for him. But the Dodgers have seen him a lot over the years when he was pitching for the Braves. They've seen him in the playoffs. They've seen him in the regular season a lot. So there's some familiarity there. There's not a whole lot that Max Fried can do that Dodgers haven't seen from him before. So it's going to be a situation. Let's say hypothetically it's Yankees Dodgers again in the World Series. That would be crazy. But let's say hypothetically it happens again. There's nothing Max Fried is going to do that's going to shock them. So they'll be prepared for him again. He got knocked around a little bit for the first time, for what feels like the only time in the whole season in that series. And then you had Will Warren come in. Will Warren's been looking good. He had a string of really good starts. The stuff looked fantastic. Big test for him on the road in LA, hectic environment on a Saturday, and he got absolutely tagged. And the Yankees gave up a football score to them. So we ended up managing to salvage the game 3 with Yarbrough on the hill. Did just enough to win that ball game, but it was one of those. It was it was a heat check. Yankees look fantastic. All the numbers look good. The pitching is good. The hitting is good. They're winning all these games. Blah blah blah. One of the best teams in baseball. Then you show up against the Dodgers and you get roughed up a couple times, and then you salvage game 3. So, one of those situations where I was there for all 3 of them. Anytime they're in the Yankees are in Southern California, you can expect me to be there. And I just expected them to kind of play a little bit differently in those first 2 games. Take it a little personally after all the chatter over the offseason. Great start to the year, coming in, having an opportunity to, bang the Dodgers up a little bit, and they got us. So, maybe we're not where we want to be yet. But this was a good rebound series against the Guardians for sure, to get back into winning a series there, not letting the inevitable June gloom, June swoon, all the different ways people want to talk about the dreaded June regression that we see every season when the offense falls asleep and the pitching, kind of does shitty. But we're pushing off the bad vibes from another June, and so far so good. So you had Carlos Rodon, who pitched really well on Tuesday. Clark Schmidt didn't have his best stuff yesterday. Luis Ortiz looked phenomenal. I mean, I know the guy's numbers were not great, but the dude was throwing up to 99. The changeup was really good. He's got a funky arm angle. If a dude like that finds it one night and it just so happens to be against you, you tip your cap. It just wasn't your night. But the Yankees come back from that tonight, and they do their thing. 4-0, get a shutout. Max Fried looked good. Cody Bellinger's still looking good, so that's fantastic. At least we had lamb chops. What is up, Chris? My guy Chris in here in the chat. We did have some phenomenal lamb chops, which is definitely not your typical pre-game tailgate kind of meal, but Chris over here is a magician in the kitchen, and we were out there outside of the Big A eating phenomenal lamb chops. So if you see Ball9 in the chat on YouTube, click that profile, give him a follow as well. And while you're there, you might as well subscribe to the Lasagna Show. So, throw some subscribes around. If you're watching on Twitter, find the Lasagna Show on my Twitter page, click the blue link, subscribe to the channel, like this video, like all the other videos, and, show some support, and we will definitely have some fun for the rest of the year. The show is still in the very early stages. It's been going on a little over a month, so we're still growing, still figuring some things out. There are some things I want to do differently going forward to make it more interactive for those of you who do tune in often. So, definitely want to hear from you guys on phone calls eventually. I want to, bring some of you on the show yourself and see what you have to say. So, there's going to be an evolution with the show going forward. So, definitely stay tuned to see how that plays out. Lady Red Sox in the chat. We got the Sox in the Bronx tomorrow. That's my best Boston impression. I'm sorry, from a California guy. Probably didn't sound very good, but we got Sox in town in the Bronx tomorrow. So hopefully we sweep them and continue their downward spiral to the bottom of the AL East. That would be phenomenal. Sorry. Marcus, how is it going? He says, good evening. Stan the Man says, how you doing? I'm doing all right, man. You know, that Dodger series kind of, I wish it would have gone differently, man. I was really looking forward to that all season. I was looking forward to that since last year, since the World Series, man. But, you know, it is what it is. Bernard says Juan Soto has a dead bat. my guy Bernard, man. There's not one human on the planet who is watching Juan Soto more closely just to shit down his throat every time he goes 0 for 1, 0 for 2, 0 for 3, 0 for 5, and does horribly. So if you see Bernard in the comments, there is a very good chance he will be shitting on Juan Soto, which is hilarious. At least he's very consistent. Dylan says, how about that Game 5 flashback play tonight? Convinced me we live in the simulation. Yeah, I knew it looked familiar. You know, I'm trying to erase as much of that World Series from my memory as possible. But, you know, Volpe ranging to his arm side ball. You know, when you're ranging arm side and you make a throw like that, you know there's going to be a little bit of momentum carry from your ball is going to go towards the right. So he probably should have aimed a little bit more left and had that ball kind of run into Jazz rather than run away from him. The ball kind of skipped away, but, you know, it is what it is. It was a very similar play to the World Series, which is very, you know, PTSD worthy, but, you know, we won the game, so who cares? Jordan says, going against Crochet this weekend. And you know, the Yankees are with lefties. We destroy them. Just kidding. That would be a great test. I mean, Crochet throws 1,000,000 miles an hour. He's got a funky arm angle. He's got a great slider. You know, he seems like a big game kind of guy. He kind of reminds me of Chris Sale a lot, especially with the ginger beard in Boston. You know, the Red Sox aren't the Red Sox unless there's like 2 or 3 guys that have like fire orange hair and like really long ginger beards. So they couldn't have found a guy that fits there any better. As long as he doesn't cut up any jerseys with scissors. You know how that goes with Chris Sale when he was on the White Sox, but that was a White Sox thing. So he didn't do that in Boston. But yeah, Chris Sale. Crochet is going to be a tough challenge. We'll see how that goes. Good test for an offense that's struggling a little bit. I think before tonight I was trying to see how the Yankees offense had been recently because, you know, a lot of people are talking about how their offense isn't looking great. I think I checked from June 1st through today. They have an OPS in the 5s or 6s. So, you know, less than ideal, a little bit of a fall from grace from where they were previously. But, you know, they found a way tonight. Offense did just enough. Cody Bellinger stays hot and we move on. So going to be interesting to see if we can keep the Red Sox shitty going forward. Stan the Man says at the end of the day was only another series in May. Very true. Ball 9. That is my guy, Chris. He says Bernard taking no prisoners. He does not. Bernard, you talk about a consistent man who has it out for a guy. he sends me a text almost every day. We talk very often. And he's always quick to remind me Juan Soto's playing like shit. Juan Soto's playing like shit. So I'm in the ballpark. I'm in the, you know, the mindset that Juan Soto's, you know, he's going to come around. He's been a little unlucky this season in terms of hitting the ball hard and making outs, kind of like Ben Rice. Some of the peripheral numbers kind of lead to a potential increase in production from Juan Soto going forward. And we all know how good of a hitter he is naturally. So I don't think he's going to hit 230 the rest of the season. I think by the end of July, you're probably going to see his numbers look pretty solid, or at least much better than they are right now. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he feels like shit. Maybe he hates the Queens. Maybe he doesn't want to be a Met. I don't know. But he looked pretty happy yesterday, and he just recently had like 3 homers in 4 games. So you never know. But at the end of the day, I'm not a Mets fan. I don't care about what Juan Soto's doing anymore. I'm focused on the Yankees. I know it's a crosstown thing with the Mets, but I don't really ever think of them, honestly. So sometimes I'll throw a little jabs here and there, mess around on Twitter. But, I mean, the Mets really don't ever cross my mind. So really not concerned about that. Jones says Jazz should have had his foot outside of the bag on top of it, but that's inexperience. Yeah, I mean, he's still a pretty relatively new third baseman, so there's going to be some growing pains there. Mike says that World Series was the worst. I flew to New York for it. Sitting in the bar in Queens during the 5th inning, half full of Mets fans rolling. couldn't get back to Florida fast enough. Yeah, I was in New York for that too. I watched Game 1 at Billy's. The place was rocking. It was amazing. Stanton hits a monster bomb. It felt like Game 1 was inevitably going to be ours. We had a couple late leads, and the Dodgers just found a way to keep coming back. Man, that's what they do. I told a couple friends during the NLCS when the Dodgers were playing the Mets in the NLCS, they were telling me, "Hey, we would like to play the Dodgers in the World Series instead of the Mets." And I'm like, "No, you don't want that. I promise." There's just something about they're inevitable. Their lineup is deep. They didn't have a ton of starting pitching last year, but they still pieced it together and found a way to gentlemen sweep us. So I mean, that's just a testament to what they do, how they play the game, how they build their roster. And that's I know they got a million guys injured and the pitchers keep getting hurt there. I don't know what the hell they're doing in the pitching lab, but they know how to build a roster that competes. And they were short pitching again against us the last time we played them a few days ago, and they still beat us 2 out of 3. So it's one of those things. If you're going to get back to the World Series of the Yankees through this somewhat weaker version of the American League, you gotta bet within the next 3 to 5 years if you're going to get back to the World Series, there's a good chance you're going to face the Dodgers again. So the Yankees are going to have to keep adding pieces to find a way to get outs from the pitching side. Keep adding offensive players who are going to come through with runners in scoring position, going to be good situational hitting, can do damage, can hit homers. It was nice to see them hit Yamamoto finally, which was great. But you're going to have to see that a lot. You're going to have to beat Yamamoto probably 2 or 3 times in the series. You're going to have to figure out ways to get their lineup out, their really deep lineup out. A lot of good hitters out, 3 or 4 times in the game with a bunch of different arms. And, in a 7-game series, you're going to see a lot of the same relievers over and over again. So try not to overexpose your best guys. There's a lot that goes into it. So, if the Yankees get back to the World Series and they end up facing the Dodgers again, I'll be holding my breath. I hope they do well. But it's one of those things. They kind of got us figured out right now, but hopefully we can figure it out next time. Chris says, Mike, I was at Game 1 and flew up for Game 5. Almost stopped watching baseball. Luckily, I was flying back home the day of Game 5, and I was watching updates on my phone on the plane, and just puzzled, like, what the hell is going on in the 5th inning? Then when I finally landed and saw how everything played out, I was like, that was one of the worst things I've ever seen. So yeah, very interesting. Bernard says, when is Juan Soto going to figure it out? I think by the end of July, he's going to have pretty decent numbers compared to what he has right now, but I don't know. We'll see. Michael G says, what is Bernard's X handle? So find him. It's Sandman. I forget the numbers, but it's Sandman, and it has a Mariano Rivera picture. If you go on my Twitter page and you search Sandman, you could probably find him. Just look for the Mariano Rivera icon, and you'll see Bernard there on Twitter. But while you're on Twitter, if you're on Twitter at all, go to my Twitter page, click the blue link in my bio, follow the Lasagna Show, because why not? Like this video itself, like all the other videos, and let's have some fun for the rest of the year. Might as well, right? Bernard says Soto will hit 235 for the rest of the year. I don't believe it, but I don't know. We'll see. And Bernard says, I care. I mean, I'm just not concerned about the Mets. I mean, it is what it is. Jordan says, let's say it like this. I can't say you're unlucky when you have a ground ball percentage north of 55%. Yeah, I mean, he's got to figure out a way to start lifting the ball. I mean, he's been hitting the ball hard. I think at some point he had more balls hit over 100 miles an hour than Aaron Judge, I think, as of like a week ago. So, it's a good hitter. He'll figure it out. I'm not concerned about a 26-year-old in his prime, dealing with a little bit of pressure from a huge contract he just signed. It's going to be one of those things where he's going to come out of it. He's going to be hitting the ball and everyone's going to forget about it. So it is what it is. Chris says, only time I ever think about Soto at this point is when the Mets in our group, ex-Mets in our group chat, complain about him and laugh every time. I mean, Juan Soto hasn't made a lot of friends in terms of Mets fans with his early tenure in New York and Queens. I mean, you can't really talk about Barstool Frank's crash outs because he's kind of, the crazy guy, but a lot of other Mets fans like, what the hell? Soto's a waste of money. Soto's this and that. So he's got a lot of work to do in terms of starting to produce, starting to get, some of the fans back on his side, putting up some good numbers, and kind of salvaging this first year after a pretty rough start. But it is what it is. Let's see. Ray C says, I live in LA and it was for the World Series. It sucked. Yeah. I mean, my soul got ripped out of my body at the end of Game 1, just watching it on the big screen at Billy's. I can't even imagine being there after spending all that money and stuff. Just absolutely crazy. Jordan says you're hoping for the Dodgers to get taken out in the playoffs in the NL. Yeah, I mean, shit, if it happens, I'm not going to complain. I would prefer to see somebody else, but beggars can't be choosers. I just want to get back to the World Series. The Yankees got to win a World Series during this Judge and Stanton and Garrett Cole window. So get there and figure it out. Mike says the Dodgers had us scouted perfectly last year. They played to all the weaknesses we knew that were there. Yeah, I mean, how many years have we been talking about bad fundamentals? Base running, bad defense, lack of situational hitting, lack of solid major league bats. I mean, they had Anthony Rizzo is not even on a team right now, and they had him starting in the World Series last year. Verdugo is an afterthought, and he was starting the World Series last year. So, there were some automatic outs there that I hope this season we don't have. As we get a Stanton back, we just got Jazz back, who had 3 hits today, which is great to see. T-Rant is regressing, so we're probably going to see more Jason Dominguez. Bellinger's, doing his thing. So, the rotation is going to get jumbled up here in the next couple of weeks. Going to be interested to see how Ben Rice fits into the equation when Stanton gets back. But, it's kind of a good problem to have, and usually those things find a way to figure themselves out. So we'll see how that goes. Bernard says, take away Freeman's bat bag. Yes, please. I just tell Freeman to go on a vacation, and the guy terrorized us. Chris says, crazy thing about that Dodgers series is Yarbrough made the hitters look silly. He really did. I mean, he's it looks like they changed his changeup grip, and he's doing something a little differently, and it's a phenomenal pitch. It's so good. For those of you who are baseball nerds like me, we call that kind of pitcher a dead fish lefty, soft throwing guy, throws a lot of junk, everything spins. It's what you call a comfortable 0 for 4. You're up there at the plate, nothing scares you, nothing is intimidating. The ball's coming out super slow, it's under hitting speed, and you just the ball looks like a beach ball, and you go back to the dugout after the game, and you're 0 for 4, and you're like, what the hell happened? So he's one of those crafty guys that you like to have at the back end of the rotation. He's definitely a little bit of a different mix compared to Fried and Rodon or other lefties in the rotation who, have a, 96, 97 fastball with hard sliders and stuff. So nice to have a Yarbrough type back there who can get outs and not have to try to throw a million miles an hour. Sandman, Bernard did put his Sandman Twitter handle in the chat if you want to go follow him. He is hilarious. He's also great with stock tips. So if you want to make some money, go talk to him. Wilson says, what do you think about Goldie playing second base, putting Rice at first when Stanton comes back? I mean, I don't know. He's kind of big and slow and older. I don't know if he's got the range, but I mean, DJ LeMahieu does too. I don't know if Goldschmidt's ever played second base. I don't know what that would look like. I know we saw the highlight the other day of him messing around during batting practice or whatever, but I don't think it's very realistic. I think it's about as realistic as Ben Rice playing third base. I don't think it's going to happen, but if Goldie goes to Aaron Boone and says, hey, try me out at second, I want to see what happens. And they try it out just to see if Ben Rice can play first. I wouldn't be shocked, but I think it's very unlikely. They just got, after emphasizing bad fundamentals last season and players playing out of position and all those kind of things, I think the last thing they want to do this season, especially down the stretch and into the playoffs, is play guys out of position again and set themselves up for more mishaps defensively. But, they got guys like Peraza, you got DJ, Vivas is in the minors, Jazz is playing third. So there's a lot of guys in the mix to play second and third. It's going to be hard to work that rotation with Rice and Stanton. It's really unfortunate that Rice really can't play anywhere else other than catcher, because I think they're going to give Wells a lot of run there still, which they should, because I think he'll hit 20, 25 homers still this season and have a decent amount of runs batted in and have an all right OPS. So, it's not like you can take away from Wells just because there's been some stretches this year where his batting average has been pretty low. Well, I mean, overall on the season, his average is pretty low, but there's still some good potential there with Austin Wells. So you can't really take his at-bats away completely and give him the Rice. So it'll be interesting to see that merry-go-round. Ray says, who? The Mets? Who are they? Yeah, he's a Dodger fan. That's my best bud right there. And he's Dodgers just beat the Mets, so he's over here gloating. Looks like everyone is following Bernard on Twitter. That is awesome. Donnie says, salute chat. What is up, Donnie? Nice to see you in here. No one wants to see the Dodgers again. I would agree with you. Jack says, what's your confidence level in this team to win the World Series? The bullpen scares me for sure. I would like to see a couple arms added at the deadline to get, especially guys who can get swing and miss power arms. I think the rotation will be okay. I think bullpen and third and second base / third base is probably a better a better combination of holes to fill rather than starting pitching. I would put starting pitching kind of at the bottom of the list because you're going to get Luis Heel back. Rodon looks good. Fried looks good. Warren's probably going to get some looks in in the playoffs, potentially in the 7-game series. And Yarbrough could be a really nice long man in the bullpen too. So it's one of those situations where a starting pitcher has a rough start like Warren. He can always get piggybacked by Yarbrough, who's a veteran and has a good crafty stuff. So I don't think a starting pitching ad is going to be top of their list, but we'll see. I definitely want to emphasize bullpen. I definitely want to emphasize the second baseman because DJ can't play there all season. I'm sorry. I know he's on a little bit of a heater right now, but he's got injury history. We don't know how long that heater is going to last. So I would definitely like to see a younger, more athletic, more dependable major league hitting second baseman to kind of replace him there. But I think the Yankees can absolutely get to the ALCS. I think if they meet the Tigers there, they're going to definitely have their work cut out for them. They're going to see schoolball a lot. I know their bullpen's pretty solid. Their rotation's pretty good, and they have improved their offense this season. Gleyber Torres, one guy who's not afraid to hit in New York, has had some postseason success as well. So it's one of those things. I think if they get to the Tigers and the ALCS, it's going to be a coin flip. It's going to be a tough, hard-fought series. If they can get to the World Series and face anyone other than the Dodgers, I like their chances. But a lot of baseball will be played. A lot of different things can happen. So it's going to be interesting to see how things play out for sure. Bernard says Rizzo is ready. Yeah, I'm sure he is. He's ready to put the fries in the bag. Jack says name a third baseman you want the deadline. I mean, a third baseman, I'd be kind of fine leaving Jazz there. I don't know who's available second base wise. I see that Stan the Man says Suarez. He's so streaky though. I mean, I would take it. I mean, I wouldn't complain, but it is what it is. I would love a Brandon Donovan, but he's going to cost too much. I wouldn't mind floating a Clark Schmidt out there to see, what he might bring. I know he's a a very predictable, reliable, quality start machine in the regular season. But if you can get a high quality player who's controllable in return that can fill a hole, defensively and add another good bat to the lineup, I think that would be awesome. But we'll see how it plays out. It just depends on what Cashman is willing to do, what he's willing to part with, what some of these deals look like in terms of what the Yankees have to give up. So we're going to cross that bridge when we get there. Bernard said oat bag. I don't know what I'm trying to pick up what you're putting down there. I don't know what that means. Marcus Allen says Yankees Dodgers rematch in the World Series. I would definitely not prefer to see that, but if it happens, I will cross my fingers. Jordan said Ben Rice needs to start adjusting to the secondary team that teams have been feeding him, and that's where his regression started. Yeah, I mean that happens with a lot of young hitters, especially guys who are getting a little bit overexposed in terms of he didn't get this many at bats last season, so now he's out there having success. He's logging a ton of at bats, and the more you hit and the more you play and perform, the more teams are going to start to get data on you and pick up on what sequences are working better against you and how to get you out. So there's going to be an adjustment towards Ben Rice, and he's going to have to adjust back. That's pretty normal stuff for young hitters. But I'm pretty high on Ben Rice. I mean, he's shown for a good chunk of this season that he can hit at this level, and I don't think it's fake. So I'm definitely excited to see how he continues to progress as a hitter because he can be a good, young, reliable, controllable left-handed power bat for a handful of years in this window. And you saw him take Yamamoto deep the other day, so he can hit good pitching. Definitely really, really excited about him. So hopefully he can start to adjust there. Donnie says, Jack, I like Ryan McMahon at the deadline. Ryan McMahon's had a rough year. I think he's owed like 20-something million. So it's going to be interesting to see if the Yankees want to take that on, if the Rockies will pay a piece of it, if Ryan McMahon will even start hitting. If they trade for him and he comes over here and he starts playing like shit, everyone's going to turn on him and go at him crazy. So definitely going to be interesting to see if that guy starts hitting towards the deadline and if it even makes sense. Mike says Trent slowing down is now good timing for it. When G gets back, they're going to need to juggle like crazy. Him not being hot makes those decisions a bit easier. It's absolutely true. We appreciate T-Rant for what he was doing earlier in the season. He has regressed back to normal, and he will come out of it, and he will find some middle ground where he's producing, not at the level he was earlier, but he will still find a way to start producing again. He will hit some homers. He will run into a few. He'll hit some doubles. He'll leg out some singles. So he's a good athletic left-handed backup fielder. So I'm excited to have him on the team still. Some very strange comments. I will skip those. Danny says Big G's going to be a DH. Yes, he will. Donnie says DJ goes to the bench. That is music to my ears. This Elisa is mommy is a very strange person. Anyways, Jordan says would expect if that goalie went to second base, there would be a defensive replacement at the back end. Yeah, I have no idea what that would look like. Moving on past some of those very strange comments that I saw. Anyways, so Donnie says Rice, I think, is trade bait. I don't know about that one. Jack says Lombard has a 600 OPS in Double A. He's like 12 years old. There's going to be a growing period there for him. Michael also mentions trading Rice. I highly doubt that unless there was some absolutely insane deal that sweeps them off their feet. I think they like Rice a lot and would want to keep him, especially with Goldschmidt being on a 1-year deal. You easily just plug Rice there next season and call it a day. Donnie says don't want a prospect hug like Greg Bird. Greg Bird, the legend, getting mentioned in the chat. Who would have thought? Scrolling down to the bottom. Jack says a Mason Miller trade. Now you're getting crazy, but you're speaking my language. That is a power arm, a dominant, option. He had a couple rough appearances, I think last month, that ballooned his ERA like crazy, but he's so much better than that. Bernard says Lombard now. With your guy, Bernard also likes DJ. So with your guy DJ hitting, he could play second. And Jazz looks pretty good at third. I don't think there's any room for Lombard at this moment. But I think Lombard is still drinking milk out of a bottle and wearing it when he eats. He was just born like 3 weeks ago, so I don't think he's ready for the Yankees just quite yet. But he's got a chance to make it if he has a really good, run for the rest of the season. Double A, I think he will get a spring training invite with a big club and stick around and have a chance to make the club out of spring training next year. So let's see how the rest of Lombard's season goes for them. Joe Turpie wonder if Justin Martinez from the D-backs could be available. That would be something that would make me run through the street and scream in joy and fall to my knees and start crying. That dude, Justin Martinez, is absolutely filthy, throws a billion miles an hour. His splitter is disgusting. So if that ever materialized, I would jump through the ceiling. Jack says dead honest opinions on Boone, like troll stuff aside. He's a player's manager. He is he's there to quote unquote be a communicator. He's there to make the guys feel good. He's there to be it's like that saying, when people are parenting, you want to be your kid's parent, not their friend. I think Aaron Boone is he's more their friend than their fearless manager. But the team's playing well right now. The players are doing well. Whatever is going on in there is working, so don't mess it up. It's not my style. I don't like the way he answers certain questions in the media. I don't like all of that stuff, but it is what it is. Donnie Clark says, hit those likes on the video and subscribe to the channel. You are the man. Thank you for saying that. Occasionally, I will definitely need a reminder of that, but I appreciate you guys that are here. If you're watching on Twitter, click the link in my Twitter bio, the blue link. Follow the Lasagna Show on YouTube. Like this video. Subscribe to the channel. Let's have some fun this year. Jordan says, Justin Martinez just signed an extension this season, so doubt he gets moved. You got to ruin the fun with facts, buddy. Come on now. I had no clue that he signed an extension, so thanks for chiming in with that one. Donnie Clark says Kelly would be interesting. Mike says positives. Boone does a decent job managing the bullpen. Doesn't put pitchers' ego ahead of pulling them when needed. I don't love his bullpen moves. I think sometimes he tries to steal outs. I think a golden example of him not having the greatest feel for the game was putting Nestor in to face Freddie Freeman there in the World Series. I felt like that was a horrible decision, especially Nestor coming off injury, hadn't pitched for several months. That was very frustrating to watch. But, Tim Hill came in this most recent series and got Freddie Freeman out. So, it was kind of a poetic justice in the PTSD moment, but it is what it is. Jack says thoughts on how Goldschmidt is going to do. I think he's going to keep. I don't think he's going to hit 330 all year, but I think he's shown that he can still be a productive major league bat. I think he can still smack some singles around. I think he'll absolutely still crush lefties. He's playing good defense. He's one of those guys that I just completely whiffed on. I thought he was closer to wash than he was, hitting 330. But look at him now. He's been a very solid contributor. He's hitting. Power hasn't come yet, but it will. I mean, he's got forearms the size of Mark McGwire's waist, so that he definitely will hit. But yeah, it's been a pleasant surprise to see Goldschmidt doing his thing. If Goldschmidt could keep doing this and Stanton could come together and Judge can be hitting homers and you got Ben Rice hitting and Jazz hitting, and Cody Bellinger is hitting, this offense can be scary. So hopefully all these guys start, clicking all at the same time when Stanton gets back. And Stanton is it's gonna take Stanton maybe 2 or 3 weeks to somewhat be close to what we expect him to be. There's going to be some ugly swings. We all know that. There's going to be some slump in there, low batting average. But it's going to be nice to get Stanton back, especially against lefties. He's going to be another power bat in the middle of the order. And when we all know there's some ugly months with Stanton, but there's some really good months with Stanton. We'll hit 8 to 10 homers in a month. So it's going to be one of those things where you take the good with the bad. Hopefully he's healthy come playoff time. And pray that he maintains his absolutely absurd pace in the playoffs, because that's a guy that we could count on last season that we're going to need to count on again if we're going to win a World Series in this window. So looking forward to getting Stanton back, seeing, how he looks, get him in the groove, get him feeling good. Hopefully he goes crazy this summer and hits for a bunch of power, and then he's ready to roll in the playoffs. So it's going to be nice to see. Going to be nice to see when it all clicks, because Goldschmidt is he's been phenomenal. And Bellinger's coming around. Stanton's going to come around. So it could be a very scary group for sure. Jordan says trade targets, White Whale, DeGrom. That would be absolutely insane. If that were to happen, I would fall on my ass. But not sure how motivated they are to move him. I have no idea. Donnie says the Yanks pen has been great. It has been great, but I think there is a need there, and you saw it a little bit in the Dodger series where they need a guy that can come in and throw a power fastball, 98 plus, with a power slider, and get some swing and miss. I mean, I think they need. Loizaga does throw hard, and he will be throwing harder as he kind of gets his act together, as he's kind of building back up from his injury. But he's always been a soft contact guy. He's never really been a huge swing and miss guy. So I need a power 4-seamer, not a 2-seamer, not a sinker. I need a guy who throws gas, 98 plus, firm 4-seam fastball with a slider preferably, that can come in, throw that 98 upper part of the strike zone and get swing and miss in key moments. And, the Dodgers prioritized getting guys like that last year at the deadline, and it paid off for him in the playoffs. So I think the Yankees should emphasize that too. I don't know who's out there. I know Brian Cashman knows more than me in terms of what's available, but if there are deals to be made for guys like that, I'd love to see if they can figure that out and get some of those. Donnie says Leiter Jr. could be an all-star. He could, absolutely. Mike says, I'm thinking about Girardi, who would leave a guy like CC out of gas in the 6th and to get shelled and say, I was trusting my vet. There is some of that. That's a little bit of more of an old school kind of thing. The Yankees are very analytically driven now more than ever. So, they never want to let a guy, if a guy's, kind of running out of gas and they're going to face the lineup a third time, I don't think they're going to let a guy do that too often, unless it's a guy like Rodon or Fried when they're dealing. But yeah, Joe Girardi was more of a feel guy, kind of old school, more than Aaron Boone is more of a analytically driven kind of sort of guy. So Girardi would definitely be much different there. Donnie says Plan B is better than Plan A. Donnie says Big G back at the end of June. Yeah, I think he's starting a rehab assignment next week, so that'll be interesting. Chris with Ball 9 says Stanton is going to go on that 3-week tear. Absolutely. Get hurt and come back for October. I hope he doesn't get hurt, but you can't rule it out. Can't ever rule that out with him. So, I wouldn't sit here and disagree with you on that. Donnie says, I say, even after All-Star game, don't rush him. It's possible. Feb says that Volpe Jazz error was the same play that happened in the World Series. Yes, it was. Yankees, Giants, Rangers. My guy says offense would be scary without sacrificing defense. It would be. That would be phenomenal if they can figure that out. Mike says DeGrom was amazing, but injury history, yeah, you couldn't really rely on him to be around too long. Not sure if he'll stay healthy the rest of the year, but it's always a coin flip. I see Alcantara being thrown in there. It's doable, but the numbers don't look great. So Matt Blake would really have to work his magic. I see Brandon Lau also. I mean, he's with the Rays. I don't know how close the Rays are going to be to a wild card spot by the deadline. I don't know if they want to move him, so that would be interesting to see. Jordan, he's got a good one here. Rangers payroll is tight with Seager, IL, Semien, washed. El Bombi, my jacked Cuban brother, very streaky. I mean, has he gone on any good streaks this year? I think he's been hitting like shit last time I checked, but I haven't looked in a while. Rangers bullpen, he says always trash. DeGrom would have 2 years left on his deal, and I would believe they would shed some money off of his deal. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I don't know what the Yankees would give up. I don't know what that deal would even look like. If they like him, if they don't, if he can stay healthy. But if in a perfect world, if you can add a DeGrom and he stayed healthy and it didn't cost much, I think that'd be phenomenal. Chris with Ball 9 says Alcantara is coming back from Tommy John. Can't fix that in the lab. Yeah, it's very true. I mean, usually the first year after TJ, starters are not the same. They're working through things. They're getting their feel back. Usually year 2 after Tommy John is when they start to figure it out. I think we kind of saw that with some other guys like Verlander in the past. So definitely will be interesting to see who takes a chance on Alcantara this season at the deadline, see what that's going to cost. And if someone thinks they can fix him, maybe a change of scenery and a better situation around him, better pitching coach might, get him out of the little funk he's in right now, trying to figure things out after TJ. But he still throws hard as hell. He throws 98, 99 with crazy pitches and pitch shapes and stuff. So, I mean, pitching coaches would be salivating to get an opportunity to coach that dude and see if they can be what can unlock him and get him back to what it used to be. Bernard said he's been hitting like Soto. Who's been hitting like Soto? See, I told you about Bernard. He will not let the Soto thing go. He will not do it. Donnie says, I don't see takes Junior. Yeah, it'd be interesting. Michael G says, but we have Marcus Stroman. Oh, you just made my heart sink and my stomach drop seeing that name in the chat. Unbelievable behavior by you. I definitely would put you in timeout if we were in person. Donnie says Alcantara just had 6 Ks the other night. That's pretty good. Christopher Ball 9 says I'd love to see me some Nate Eovaldi. He's a gamer, man. I mean, the dude just goes out there and pitches. He didn't have a great tenure with the Yankees, but in his previous stint. But he's a playoff proven guy. The stuff is still pretty good. So we'll definitely see what's available. If the Rangers have a fire sale, I mean, there's some good players there. I'd really be interested to see what the cost would be and if the Yankees would be interested in adding some guys there. So definitely something to watch come deadline time if the Rangers are way out of it. Bernard says El Bombi. Yeah, I think El Bombi's hitting worse than Soto. I mean, El Bombi's been pretty bad dating back to last year, I think. So that'd be interesting. Donnie says Stroh is gone. I would love that. Bernard says Eovaldi, not a New York City player. Maybe. I mean, I don't. If he had another stint and figured it out, I wouldn't be shocked. He's pitched for some, in some pretty big moments, especially in the postseason when the stage is pretty big. So it is what it is. Mike says Eovaldi used to be the same issue as DeGrom, but he's consistently healthy in recent years. He has been. DeGrom is one of those weird situations where the guy is, physically gifted and unbelievably talented and just made of glass. And it's sad to watch. Eovaldi's kind of shaken that injury prone, title in recent years. So who knows? If they're both available, I'd love to see what it would cost. Jordan says, honest believe the Marlins might hold on to him because Sandy playing hurt I read that wrong. Because Sandy playing has hurt trade talks and how much you're willing to ask for in talks. Yeah, his performance has been awful. Donnie says Eovaldi did say he loved being a Yankee, but he thinks he had a sour taste in his mouth. Oh, I remember. I don't remember too much of Eovaldi's tenure because I just remember it being bad. I think he was injured often and it didn't look great. And I don't know who the pitching coach was at that time, but I think Eovaldi is a much better version of himself now than he was back then. He's more experienced. He knows what he's doing. He understands how to pitch. So that would be a guy that if he's available, I would definitely be awesome. It'd be awesome to see. Jack says, "Are you a Lakers fan? What do they do with Luka's weight problem?" Well, we're gonna basketball. A little bit of a basketball topic here. I mean, there's really nothing you can do about Luka's weight situation. He's got to put the fork down. He's got to stop, drinking so much, and he's got to, get dedicated to being in shape. That's really all there is to it. If you're going to commit the huge contract that they're projected to commit to him, you got to be okay with the fact that oftentimes he's going to be out of shape, and you're just going to have to embrace it. The Mavericks didn't want to embrace it. The Lakers are definitely going to need some star power after LeBron leaves. So the easy option would be to lock up Luka for the long term and just hope and pray that he figures it out. So definitely interesting situation, but they got him for a great deal. He's a young superstar who's experienced, played in the finals. He has really good scoring numbers. He fills up the stat charts, and he's good in the playoffs. So I mean, you take the good with the bad there, and hope that him being a little out of shape sometimes doesn't lead to chronic injuries that keep coming back. But I'm excited to have Luka. I think he's a good player. Would love to see him in a little bit better shape, but it is what it is. Chris with Ball 9 says Yankees paid for that new elbow, and he's been a damn horse. Yeah, it's true. Whatever surgeon did that, good on him. Lane says, how do you feel about the Mets? I think they're a pretty good team. I think they're going to be around all year. They're going to be in the mix for their division. They'll definitely be in the playoffs. Their rotation, it's a little spotty. I think they're getting Manea back at some point, so they'll definitely be a nice add. They got some guys in the pen that throw pretty hard. Diaz has looked good. I think the offense, Pete Alonso would have been phenomenal. I think Soto's going to end up hitting eventually. So they'll be a formidable opponent for whoever they face in the playoffs, and it'll be fun to see how the National League plays out. I think the National League is absolutely stacked. And whoever comes out of the National League is going to be battle tested and ready for whatever team comes out of the AL. And if it's the Yankees better be ready to figure it out. So definitely going to be a very fun October, but we still got June, July, August, and September to go. So we're not even halfway there yet. Mike says I was an old-timers given 15. Eovaldi was a beast. Complete game shutout, if I remember. Back then, it was probably inconsistency and injury. Yeah, I mean, after he went to the Yankees, I think he went to Boston or something. But yeah, like Chris said, Rothschild. Yeah, we don't have Larry around anymore, so definitely Matt Blake being around would be awesome. But it's all hypotheticals. Lane says, "Who did the Yankees up?" I'm not sure what that means. Call up. Trade. I'm not sure what that means. Donnie says, I think he's treated a volley like Pavano. Yeah, I can see that. Bernard says Lucas should take Ozempic. Ouch. Lewis says, what infielders would you want the Yankees to go after? I love Brendan Donovan. I don't think it's realistic. I don't really know who's available out there. I don't know what the cost will be. So, it's crazy. Jordan says delusional talk, but call Cincy and ask about Hunter Green. That would be absolutely insane if that were to happen. Lane says, what was the news on Montas? I think he threw a rehab outing the other day and it wasn't great, but he'll be back eventually. Lane says, who can the Yankees call up? I think there's a couple of really good arms down there. I think I forget the name, the big tall right-hander, and there's a couple other guys down there who throw pretty hard and good stuff. So you might see them towards the end of the year, especially if the bullpen gets taxed and they need a couple guys. So definitely will be interesting to see if any of those guys are an option going forward. Chris with Ball 9 says Green just went to the IL, but I do like the kid. Correct me if I'm wrong, but is Green relatively injury prone? I know he throws like 1 billion miles an hour, but I feel like he's been hurt somewhat often, but I probably could be wrong there. I'm not sure. While you check that, if you're watching on Twitter, go to my Twitter page, click the blue link in my bio, subscribe to the Lasagna Show, like this video, like all the other videos, might as well while you're there, leave a comment, and let's have some fun this season. It's going to be a good time. Chris says, yes, he is injury prone. Yeah, I mean, he's a SoCal guy, man. He's a big, tall, strong dude, throws hard. I love the makeup. Just a tricky situation there. I think it's crazy because he pitches in a pretty shitty ballpark for pitchers as well in Cincinnati. The ball flies out of there. It's not huge. Eventually I think he'll be away from the Reds, but I don't think they'll be anytime soon. But it was a fun conversation to have. Jordan's delusional talk there. John says if the Rays fall out, get Fairbanks. I don't know how much inter-division trading there would be. I think it'll depend if the Rays are around, within 5 games of a wild card, if they think they can make a run. But I do like Fairbanks a lot. He throws absolute gas and that's good stuff. Donnie says, Johnny, I think maybe a Peralta trade for a starter. That would be interesting. I have seen a few people float that idea out there on Twitter. I just wonder what it would cost, and where the Brewers would be in the standings. So that's what makes it tough these days with the wild card being expanded. So you got a lot of teams that might be sticking around the wild card halfway through the year and think they might have a shot, and then wouldn't want to part with some guys that they would have parted with otherwise. So some teams might think they're in the mix and don't want to move guys, or if they do decide to move guys, then ask for the moon, the sky, and the stars, and try to take all your best prospects. So it's definitely put a damper on the deadline every year and made it less exciting, but it'd be awesome to see. Chris says Hunter Green went to Harvard Prep, been following him for a while. Yeah, he pitches in a tough ballpark, SoCal guy, but I root for him. I love watching dudes like that pitch. Super fun. Lane says news on Luke Weaver. That was tough, man. It's really tough to see him go out that way with the hammy situation while he's warming up. That's crazy. 4 to 6 weeks. A hammy is one of those situations where it could linger. It's definitely something you don't want to rush. You want to be very careful with it and make sure he's 1,000% before you bring him back. So, hopefully the bullpen can hold it down. Do not rush Luke Weaver. Plenty of time for him to recover before the playoffs. You're going to really need him down the stretch. 4 to 6 weeks. I think it might be closer to 6 weeks. And there you go. Jordan, the Rodon supporter of record, says, does Rodon make the All-Star team? He better, man. He's got some of the best numbers in the whole damn league. Outside of Fried and maybe Schoolbowl, man, he's phenomenal. Donnie says, imagine a rotation of Fried, Rodon, Peralta, Smitty, and Warren. That'd be pretty tough. And Yarbrough to the pen. Lane mentions Mets and Fairbanks. I have absolutely zero clue. Donnie says the next season, Cole, Fried, Rodon, Peralta, and Smitty. I'm very interested to see what version of Cole we get next season. Just like we were talking about with Sandy Alcantara. Usually year one after TJ. You're kind of getting getting a feel back for everything. You're not, as good as you can be. Usually year one after TJ is a little bit of a rough go of it. So I don't think you can plug in Garrett Cole next season and just expect him to be himself. There's going to be some rough periods where he's figuring some things out, but I think, hopefully he can be somewhat himself next season and offer something. Because right now Alcantara is absolutely zero, which is a little scary. But I would look towards 2027 for Garrett Cole to be, back in Cy Young contention for sure. Donnie says Warren number 6. Jack Smith says, what do you think about Garrett Cole's Hall of Fame chances? Making these 1 or 2 more good years. Yeah, I think he's pretty much a lock. I think he's going to pitch well into his 40s, kind of like Verlander a little bit. Big, strong guy. Hasn't been hurt that often outside of this one. Probably pitches for to 40 and beyond. So I think he'll definitely accumulate a bunch of numbers. Hopefully he gets a World Series here with the Yankees, and he will definitely be a Hall of Famer. Mike says Fried, Schoolbowl, and Rodon would be the first 3 pitchers we see in order of the All-Star game. Yeah, for sure. Lewis says, if Stroman somehow is in the rotation, how many starts do you give him to be out? I don't see any realistic possibility where Stroman would be in the rotation. I just don't see it. There's not one pitcher in the rotation right now who should come out for Stroman. And they also want to keep him below the innings mark. I think it's 140 innings. I don't think he even reached that as it is, but I think he's due another year or more money if he reaches that benchmark in terms of his pitch. So, I don't think he's going to get much start or much run after that. Donnie says, I like Framber Valdez, but Houston will not do it, just like trading Tucker to the Yankees. Yeah, probably not realistic. Chris with Ball 9 says Verlander would have been nice to see. Get to 300 with that. Shit ain't happening. Yeah, probably not. Unfortunately, Verlander is one of my favorite pitchers of all time. I love a durable, hard-throwing, horse of an ace. He's been fun to watch since he was in Detroit, and it's just crazy to see how long he's pitched. It's absolutely insane. Very limited injury history, most of his career. So he's definitely a throwback, because you're not going to see a lot of pitchers accumulate numbers like that going forward with how, everything's measured these days in terms of taking pitchers out and putting in bullpen guys, limiting how many times a starter can go through the lineup. So, Verlander is one of the last throwbacks. Garrett Cole might be one of the last throwbacks. CC Sabathia was definitely one of the last throwbacks as well. So, Fried's one of those guys, though. He's in that category. He can go 7 or 8 strong. He can throw a complete game. He's one of those rare guys where you kind of throw the pitch count out sometimes, and the analytical, not letting a guy face a lineup with 3 times. A guy like Fried, if he's rolling, if he's got a shutout going, if the pitch count's in good shape, let it eat. Chris with the ball line said there's no mathematical way for Stroman to hit that incentive. Thank God. Yeah, it's pretty much over for him. Trade him for 2 cases of hot dog rolls. I wouldn't trade him for a box of Crayola crayons with a little sharpener on the back. I think that might be worth more than Stroman right now. So I don't know what the hell they would trade him for. He might be a DFA candidate. I don't know if it's even realistic with how much money he's going to get, but talk about an awful contract. And I used to like Stroman. I haven't always been an anti-Stroman guy. I've never really minded his persona. I like a starting pitcher with a little bit of edge. I've never really cared about that. Back in 2017, I think he had that clinching start for Team USA in the WBC. Thought that was awesome. I think it's really cool that he's been undersized his whole career, basically. And, well, he's always been undersized, but, some guys fill out a little bit more. He's always been a small dude, skinny-ish. And he pitched pretty well for a lot of years and, not being overpowering, not being a huge dude. So it was cool to see that. And I was supportive of Stroman being an option with the Yankees. I had high hopes for him to be a middle rotation, back in the rotation guy, and it just hasn't worked out. At this point, his stuff is just not good enough. We see that by him, nibbling on the corners, not willing to come inside of the strike zone and attack hitters because he's afraid of getting hit. His stuff just isn't good enough to get major league hitters out at this point in his career. And anytime you put him out there, you're jeopardizing the team's ability to win a baseball game. And that's just the reason I just don't want to see him in there. It's nothing personal. I don't care about his personality. That's what it is, but he's just not good enough. So, hopefully he doesn't get too much work the rest of the year. But the Aaron Boone quotes, I think he looks sharp or something he said today like that. Like, come on, man. Nobody believes that shit. I know Aaron Boone has to say positive things about his players. I know Aaron Boone can't dunk on his dudes, but you don't have to embellish what you see all the time. You don't have to. If your team strikes out 17 times in a game, you don't have to say, I saw some good at-bats out there. 17 Ks in a full baseball game is never a good thing. I think that was what he said last year or a year before when that happened. He said Nestor looked sharp in his rehab outings last season. He comes in and he gets fucking shelled by Freddie Freeman. So it's you can say I like what I saw with Nestor. You don't have to say he looked sharp. You can say, I think Stroman, took a step towards making his way back today. We'll monitor him going forward. You don't have to say, oh, he looked good, he looked sharp, because it's just you're insulting our intelligence. We know he's not sharp. He hasn't been sharp when he was healthy. Why would he be sharp right now? It's just, I don't know. That kind of stuff just irks me, and they think the fans are stupid. Yankee fans, there are a lot of stupid ones, but there's a lot of Yankee fans out there who are sharp and know their shit and follow things very closely. So you can't get much past us. We watch these damn games every day. If you're going to sit here and tell me that Stroman in a side outing is looking sharp, I'm going to call you an idiot. So it is what it is. There's your little Boone rant for the day. Let's see what we got in here. Yeah, Chris with Ballline says he has no out pitch. I don't think he has any pitch to get an out at all. So it is one of those unfortunate things to watch. Donnie says, like, DJ belongs on the bench. He's been hit. He had a few hits against handful of hits against the Dodgers. He's looked better. I can't dunk on DJ right now if it's hitting. I can't. All I asked for him, I said it on Twitter. I think I said it on here too. If he could slap some singles around, and play some good defense, that is a miracle. And I'll take it every day of the week. So as long as he's slapping singles and playing good defense, keep playing second base, leave him there. It is what it is. Although Peraza looked good today in terms of, he was hitting the ball pretty well. I think he had a couple of hits. He hit a ball really hard in the gap that was caught. I think he hit it like 100 and something miles an hour, had like a 700 expected batting average. So, I wish Peraza would hit like he did today going forward, because he's athletic. He plays good defense. He's good on the bases. He's got tools, but he just, hasn't, I'd say he hasn't gotten a lot of opportunity to get, 150, 200 at bats to see what he is, but he just hasn't hit enough to be the everyday starter. So DJ's going to keep playing. They're paying DJ. It is what it is. Ball 9. Chris says, take what we can out of DJ until he never gets hurt again. Yeah, it's unfortunate. The lower half for an older dude that's 6'4", probably 230, 240 is probably going to fail again. Unfortunately, it's just kind of how things are. Father Time will remain undefeated as he always is. Mike says DJ's been better than expected. He sure has. Donnie says Cash is going to make a trade infield. That'd be nice if he does. Chris with Ball 9 says Peraza had some really nice swings today. He absolutely did, and I would like to see it happen more often. If he can dig into some of that potential that we saw early from him in the minors, that would be phenomenal. I don't think he's going to ever be an above average major league hitter, but if he can be serviceable and have a great glove, I think he can stick around in the league for a long time. If you can catch the ball, I mean, they'll find a place for you as long as you hit decently. I mean, look at Tyler Wade. The guy's been floating around the league for a million years. So Peraza's definitely, maybe it's not on this team going forward, but he'll definitely stick around the league for a while if he can continue to play good defense. Mike says we haven't seen DJ LeGrand yet. We saw spurts of it early, but he kind of snapped out of it a little bit. Donnie says Peraza getting traded has no options. That's possible. If he starts hitting a little bit and the stock starts rising on Peraza, I could definitely see that being an option if someone makes the call and he's a glove guy with a little bit of upside. Not a ton of upside. I don't think he's going to be a world burner in terms of hitting the baseball, but he knew he's going to catch the ball wherever you put him, and if he can look the way he did today, I think he could definitely be worth something on the market. All right, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up for today. It was fantastic to be back on here. My apologies for those of you who have stuck around and were there while my mic was on mute. I have no idea why it's on mute. I didn't do it myself. I think when the program started, it started on mute, and I just had to click it. I didn't know it was on. My bad. Shaking off some cobwebs. It's been a little bit. But it was great to have you guys in here. Great talking ball with you again. I missed it for sure. I appreciate all of you who chime in with all your comments and your commentary. It definitely helps make the show more fun, and it kind of moves the topics along. I think it's a great flow and a great situation when you guys are all bringing up different topics and asking questions and stuff like that. So today is Thursday, so I usually do these shows Monday through Thursday only. I won't be here tomorrow, but I will see you back on Monday. I think, did they play Monday? If they play Monday, I will be back Monday. I don't have the schedule right in front of me, but I will see you guys next time. Once again, if you're watching on Twitter, go to my Twitter bio, click the blue link in my bio, follow the Lasagna Show on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like this page, like this video as well, like all the other videos, and let's have some fun for the rest of the year. Thank you guys in the chat. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Bernard. Thank you, Donnie. Thank all you guys. You guys are the best. And I look forward to hearing from you guys soon. Great win today. Looking forward to the Red Sox series. And let's go Yankees. Have a good night.